Doing awesome. Hey, Derek, thanks for those reminders. A part of my history is I was a foreign exchange student in Beijing, China, and actually witnessed the Tiananmen demonstrations back in the day. So I saw millions of people go to the streets for the right to vote. And I think it's something that we take for granted. So I really do hope everyone listening, no matter what country you live in, around the world, there are still people who don't have that right. It is, we need to protect our democracy by voting.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. And before I let you begin, Neil, I'm going to tell everybody how they can get a copy of your book. There's a limited number of availabilities, but if you send an email to this address I've just dropped in chat, marie@ecommercetech.io, with your mailing address, I guess your full name as well, and mailing address, and you're in the United States, unfortunately we have to do the United States only due to shipping cost reasons, and we'll add you to a list and we'll let you know if you made the cut to get a free copy of Neil's book. Neil, do you have the book around? I think I have a copy. I didn't grab it.
I do, and this is my labor of love. I am personally, signing, putting them in the envelope, writing your address, and taking them to the post office where they now know my name. So
thank you so much for doing that, Neil, and I'm glad we're able to give these books away. So I'm sure we're about to fill up that list. Go ahead and go there now. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, hide myself. I will let you take it away, Neil.
All righty. Well, let me, host disabled attendee screen sharing.
1 second. For some reason, it defaults to that despite it not being my default setting.
No worries.
There you go.
We'll try it again. And all righty. So hopefully you'll be able to see my screen now and we will get started. I know we're off to a slightly late start. Derek, everything good?
Looks great.
All righty. All right. So, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I'm hoping by the end of this 30-minute presentation, you will have a completely different perspective on influencer marketing and how it can work for your business, and how in many ways influencer marketing might just replace the organic social media marketing that you're currently doing. So just a very, very brief introduction as to who I am. My name is Neil Schaefer. I'm a global digital marketing speaker and consultant. I am also an author and educator. So my latest book is called The Age of Influence, which is all about this topic of influencer marketing. I also teach at a few universities. I also have my own consultancy, and I have worked with dozens of brands as an influencer as well. So I'm looking at it from both angles, but really the culmination of this decade that I have spent in digital and social media marketing really comes down to this book, which I just published in March. For those of you that might not have heard it, it is still relatively new. And hopefully if you live in the United States, you will send that email address as well, I should say shipping address, so that you have a chance to get a free copy. All righty, so I want to start because influencer marketing, when I bring up the topic of influencers, a lot of people quote unquote cringe. And depending on, what country you're in, you might have a different perspective of influencers. So I just want to throw this out there at the beginning because I want to reshape your perception, because influencers themselves are not fake. Not saying that there aren't fake influencers, but the topic of influence and influencer marketing, these influencers aren't fake. Only your perception of them is. So I request for the next half an hour that you just do a reset in your brain as to what you've learned, what blogs you've read. We have the Fire Festival. We have all these things that we've heard about, or it costs a lot of money. I want you to just forget about those things for the next 30 minutes so that I can really help you understand the huge potential it has for your business, because most people still think this is all, smoke and mirrors, and that's great. They're going to miss out on the opportunity that hopefully you'll take advantage of. So we begin with a holistic view. And when I say holistic view is, what can you do today with everybody on the internet all the time? You can't meet people in person. Well, e-commerce, I guess you've never had the ability to do that in the first place, but obviously we have these different options for our digital marketing, and social media obviously firmly fits inside this. The one thing that most companies have websites, you got your Shopify site, you're probably doing search engine optimization, you might be doing pay-per-click, right? Hopefully you're doing email marketing and marketing automation. You're probably, hopefully also doing blogging, some type of content marketing. And then there's the social media marketing, which has gone from organic to pay to play. Then we have the influencer marketing. Now, the influencer marketing I'm going to talk about is a broad concept of digital influence. It's not limited to people that you've never heard of that have 500,000 followers. It even goes down to the employee in your company who has 2,000 followers and would be considered by general influencer marketing terms as a nano influencer. So obviously today we're going to be talking about that bottom part, but you should have a budget or a strategy for all 6 of these components. And the one component that's missing in most budgets is that bottom influencer marketing budget. Hopefully that'll change within the next 27 minutes. So first of all, we know that digital influence is everywhere. We know that we're being influenced by the content, by social media profiles all around us. We saw the influence elections 4 years ago here in the United States, speaking about elections. And we know some of you, just by watching this webinar, just by following Derek, you're making important business decisions based on being influenced by him. I think this is a great example. Maybe you'll be influenced by my presentation, right? This isn't the New York Times, right? This isn't a TED Talk. This is a webinar and I am a speaker, but yet these are still things that influence you because digital influence is everywhere. And today everyone is a publisher. Actually, not everyone is a publisher, but there's a heck of a lot of people that are publishing content on their social media profiles, just something we did not have until very, very recently. And when you think about it, those people that we consider influencers are content creators. They are taking photos and publishing them on Instagram. They're taking their dance videos, putting them on TikTok. They're YouTubers where they're creating video content. They're bloggers where they create blog content. Or sometimes they're podcasters where audio is their content. Or maybe they write books, or maybe they speak. But at the heart of it, every influencer, no matter how much or little influence they have, is a content creator. And this gives us a little hint as to the potential benefits of actually collaborating with influencers above and beyond the mere amplification of content. And I'm going to explain this a little bit more as we go through the presentation here. So influencer marketing today, even with COVID-19, becomes all the more important because number one, organic socials has become pay to play. And just today I was looking at, even the social networks where we think we get a lot of engagement like Instagram. I see big social media brands with 40, 50, 60,000 followers, 70,000 followers that are getting like 100 likes on a photo. So we begin to see, even on platforms like Instagram, the deterioration of high engagement over time due to supply and demand, right? There's just more people out there that are, publishing content that want to be seen, but also at the heart of it, we just don't engage as much with business profiles as we do with personal profiles. And the social networks want to monetize that, right? So organic social today, when I work with my clients, we put together reports, paid social, organic social, it's all one bucket. How much are we investing? How much ROI are we getting? The ROI of influencer marketing, however, is long-term. So when you do a paid Facebook ad or Instagram ad campaign, you got the on switch, you got the off switch. When it's done, it's done. When you work with influencers, their content lives on forever. There's still one particular Instagram video that I did that went quite viral, hit the discovery page. Even today, I got a like for it. This was something I posted 2 years ago, right? Obviously, content like YouTube or blog content can live a long time in the search engines. I have blog posts, but some of my first blog posts in 2008, Google still sends traffic my way. So when you think about it that way, the ROI of collaborating with content creators is much more longer term than a short-term ad campaign. And speaking of ads, we trust ads less and less, right? On the other hand, we trust those who are like us, who we can relate to more and more. So with all this being considered, we need to be heard in social media, but really the only way we're going to get heard is by advertising, which isn't a trusted medium per se. So the only way we're going to get heard is if people talk about us, right? And if you're thinking about it, inciting word of mouth is the original intent in social media marketing. We all started by thinking social media, friends of fans are going to see our content and it's going to go viral. That just doesn't happen, right? I mean, maybe 1 in a million chance. That's why if we want to get heard in social, we need people to talk about us. And the people that we can incite to talk about us, that we can collaborate with, are the influencers that I'm going to talk about through the remainder of this presentation. So who are these quote unquote influencers? Well, I do not come from the influencer marketing industry. I don't represent an influencer marketing tool or a talent agency or a marketplace. I come here as a digital marketing consultant, analyzing what's best for my clients and sharing that information with you. So I can say from an outsider's perspective, this is the way the influencer marketing industry looks at itself. It's just based on number of followers. It's very Instagram centric, right? And basically, the more followers you have, the more expensive it's going to be, right? And the more money that all these companies in the influencer marketing industry can generate. This is the traditional way. And I think this has been the turnoff for a lot of companies, that it's just based on following. And obviously, the more influence someone has, the more expensive it becomes. And it becomes so expensive that it just doesn't make sense anymore. Now, the influencer marketing industry has changed over the last few years. They began with the micro influencer, which is at the 10,000 followers you see there in navy blue. And then about 2 years ago, they started talking about nano influencers. As even micro influencers price themselves out of the market, we can work with nano influencers. And you see that in the front in pink there. These are people that have 1,000 followers. Okay, so my question to you is, who around you has 1,000 followers? Employees, partners, customers, followers. There's a lot of people around you that are probably at that level. So the problem with influencer marketing has been companies reaching out to people that they don't know, and perhaps these people don't know them. So they're operating, they're flying in the blind, trying to make a relationship, trying to find some ROI, but spending a lot of money in trying to figure it all out. What I'm talking about, and I talk about this in the age of influence, and I'll introduce it here, is why not start working with people that already have some sort of like, know, and trust for your brand? So think in terms of brand affinity. Think in terms of who has the most affinity for your brand. Obviously, they're your employees. Now, if you're a small e-commerce shop, perhaps you just don't have that many employees. We look at your customers, right? Or maybe you have collaborations with distributors, affiliates, partners. But just by looking through lists of these people, we're probably going to be able to find a few, if not more than that, that have over 1,000 followers that we can consider collaborating with. And I'm going to go into the details of that shortly. Now, there are also some people that might be following us. So they're not in our customer database, they're not in our email database, but they're following us on social media. People don't randomly follow. Try launching an Instagram account and try to get a lot of followers in a short amount of time. It doesn't happen unless you're using a bot or something. It takes time for people to get to know, like, and trust you. But if they're following you, they know you to some extent, right? Or maybe they've mentioned you. If you use a social listening tool, who's mentioned you? The problem is that everybody starts influencer marketing with the bottom here, with people that may not even like you, right? And if they don't know you, it's going to be a sell as to why they should work with you. Whereas if it's an employee or a customer, they already know you, they'd love to work with you. And in many cases, they'll work with you without even money, without even direct compensation. And we'll talk about the different collaboration models as well. So I want you to remember, you may be thinking, Neil, if that's the case, then everybody's a nano influencer. But in reality, that's not the case. If you work in marketing or in social media marketing, yes, it seems like everybody we know has at least 1,000 followers. But in the grand scheme of things, right, there's a rule called the 99-1 rule that came out. Someone wrote about it back, I think, in 2005 or 2006. It was about the internet. And in the internet, the saying goes, 90% of people are lurkers, 9% are commenters, 1% are content creators. I think that this is really, really accurate in terms of looking at social media as well. If Instagram has 1 billion users, I'm sure they're way above that. There's probably only 1 billion, 100 million, 10 million. There's probably only 10 million people, well, maybe 20, 30, 40, but there's, whether we say 1% creators, 2%, 3%, of the billion people, you don't have 500 million that publish content on a daily basis, right? That number's maybe 100 million or 90 million or 80 million or 70 million. And it's pretty much like this for any given social network. Think about YouTube, gets a lot of traffic. How many people actually have their own YouTube channel and regularly publish videos on a weekly basis? So when we talk about people that are at the 1,000 follower level that are also creating content, they are the top 1%, or between 1 and 10%, no matter how, depending on which way you want to look at it. But they are of that top 10% of internet users, and therefore there is inherent value in working together with them. It's not everybody. They are a unique minority that are extremely invaluable. So now that I've talked about the value of influencers and why you should start by looking for influencers that already have brand affinity with you, Let's look into exactly how you can do that without having to spend a lot of money. First thing we can do is, I mentioned we start with those that have mentioned us. And if we have a social listening tool, this is a tool called Brand 24, we can begin to look at who is talking about us. And if you didn't know this, a lot of people will talk about your brand without using an @ username or an @ mention. They may not tag you. So you may literally have to do hashtag searches for mentions, or in the case of Twitter or other social networks, do a search for the keyword of your brand name or product. You might find there are people out there, there are hidden fans of yours out there. If we have a Facebook page, and I'm just showing you a sample of Agora Pulse, but if we have a Facebook page, there's a community tab that you see here on the left. And if you click the community tab and you have enough people engaging with your Facebook page, you'll be able to see your top fans, as we see here in this picture. Once again, this is a screenshot from Agora Pulse, which is the social media dashboard I use if you couldn't figure it out. But this is a look at our Twitter followers that engage with us the most. So we can find our fans on Twitter very, very easily if we use a tool. And obviously there are other tools out there as well. What about influencers amongst our followers? Now, I was really psyched to hear Derek talking about how Caro is not only a sponsor, but they're also speaking today. And that is the one speech you will definitely want to hear, because Caro is an absolutely revolutionary game changer in this field, because they have a tool. And I know that this screenshot is probably a few months old, so perhaps by now they've updated it, but they have a tool that if you have a Shopify site for free, you can use their tool. It will integrate with your email database. It will integrate with your Shopify shopping cart history, and it'll take in your Instagram followers, and it will show you who are the influencers amongst them. And then from there, you can use that as a dashboard. And I know that Caro is offering, there's going to be an exciting announcement today, but, and I have no affiliation or relationship with them whatsoever, but this is a great tool. Unfortunately, we have to have a Shopify website in order to see this, but hopefully they're going to have technology that's going to allow us to do this from other websites as well. But this is what I am talking about. This is the direction that influencer marketing is going in. And I think the sooner you can do this and hop on board, the better the benefits, and obviously the quicker the benefits you're going to find from doing that. There's also another tool I'd like to talk about, which is called Gatsby.ai. And Gatsby is a little bit different from Caro. What Gatsby does is it looks at your website visitors. So maybe you have a sign up here for 10% off coupon, or when they go to your shopping cart, you ask for their email address. By adding a little bit of snippet of code, you ask for their, which Gatsby.ai provides you, you ask for their Instagram handle. And once you start getting Instagram handles of people that opted into your email list, or from your shopping cart, you now have an opted-in list of people that freely gave their Instagram handles to you, that once again in the Gatsby.ai dashboard, you can begin to engage with and build your own army of influencers. So the technology is finally catching up, making it a little bit easier for us to create and manage these sorts of programs. If you have an email database, hopefully you are scoring your fans. If you're using one of the free email software or a less expensive one, you may not have the ability to actually score people when they open an email, click on an email, or based on website activity. I use ActiveCampaign, highly recommend it. I'm able to score my fans. And therefore, for instance, when I do specific giveaways, I might reach out to only those people, the top 1% of my database that have the highest engagement with me. So just another way of finding your fans and looking for people to recruit into a type of influencer program. Now, if you only have an email address, there are tools out there that allow you to append social media profile information to that email address. This is an example. It's called voilanorbort.com. There are tons of these applications out there. And for a very, very inexpensive price, you can attach an Instagram profile, for instance, a LinkedIn profile, to an email address, and then see how influential your followers are. And then finally, LinkedIn. So, there's a lot of different types of e-commerce out there. If you have a B2B component, you probably are on LinkedIn. Maybe you have a subscription to Sales Navigator. And if you have Sales Navigator, which is their paid product, you can see who in any company, whose employees have posted on LinkedIn in the past 30 days. Now, this is an example of FreshBooks. I did a collaboration with them, which I created a screenshot for, but this is an example, right? 400 employees, but only 74 posted in the last 30 days. So this is 15%, not 10%, but you get the feeling that not everybody's active, but if they are active, then obviously there might be opportunity to collaborate with them. And then we have our business ecosystem partners, our distributors, our retail partners, value-added resellers, marketing partners, and yes, affiliate marketing is a type of influencer marketing as well. How might we work together with these other entities in terms of collaborations for our influencer marketing initiative? So we've gone through sort of the why, the what. Let's move on to the how. So we've gone through and found a pool of people that have brand affinity with us. What do we do now, Neil? Well, let's look at the potential ways in which we can work with influencers. Now, in influencer marketing in general, I'd say the most popular types of collaborations today are what you see here. Just to give you some ideas, the first one simply being, reaching out and saying, we're building an ambassador influencer program, whatever you want to call it, and we'd love to collaborate with you. Have you ever collaborated with a brand? In what ways have you collaborated with brands? What do you feel comfortable doing? At the end of the day, an influencer is not a programmable ad unit. It's a human being. And when we get down to the nano level, especially if they're your customer, they're not like a pro influencer. This isn't their day job, right? It might be a side hustle for some, but they have wants and needs as well. And we need to find out what those are and if we can create a win-win relationship, right? For a lot of people, it's giving product in exchange for a shout out or a review. Perhaps it's providing a discount code together with a giveaway of that product so that they can offer a discount to their community. Another way that's become more and more popular is to engage these influencers to create content for your brand. And in fact, we can take it one step further and really make them a part of your entire content marketing process, not just for a single Instagram post, but for all of your ads, for all of your website copy, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the scope. You'll notice that I'm not, nowhere here as I'm saying, pay $1,000 for someone to post something on Instagram. Influencer marketing has sort of moved way beyond that. There's still part of that out there without a doubt, if you want to reach out to someone that has a greater number of followers or influence. But I recommend you start here and really build up your influence and see the results you can do without having to pay a lot of money to someone. So, how does this work? How does this work in the real world? I want to give you a few examples, and I'm going to sprinkle some case studies here for the remainder of this presentation. So this is an example of someone, a female bodybuilder, who created a protein-infused pancake and waffle batter. Okay, so her target audience are bodybuilders, weightlifters, people that want to, personal trainers, what have you. Very, very targeted audience that she basically reached out to on Instagram and said hello, said what her company's doing, said she made the product for these types of people. Would they like to try it? And if you like the product, would you agree to review it by posting something on Instagram? Guess what? 86% of the people actually responded. 76% agreed to review it. And in 4 months, online sales increased by 14x, double website traffic, et cetera, et cetera. This is an example of how working with the right influencers and just for the cost of product can really incite insane revenue. Now, there are many reasons that you might want to work with influencers. One is the product review, right? And just getting a shout out on Instagram is great for some. For others, you can get a shout out somewhere else. This is an example of GhostBed, who worked with a number of influencers and they asked for YouTube reviews. So obviously they're working with YouTubers that create content on YouTube and, maybe they do product reviews and they're looking for that. So they saw by working with over 100 influencers, a 15% increase in website traffic, a 3x ROI over their traditional marketing spend, literally saved tens of thousands of ad dollars, reached a new broader audience, which you generally do when you work with influencers that have their own niche communities. And now these reviews become a powerful asset on their website that we're going to be seeing for a long time. Influencer discount codes. These are great. There's actually a site called Deal Spotter that specializes in people, user-generated discount codes. People find on the internet and they post them there and they share them there. They also have a influencer marketplace you can work with. So this is an example of a website showing the influencer discount code for this site called jclub.com, which is an e-commerce site. So they work with 33 influencers who create a blog post, YouTube videos. They spent about $100 per. It was 7.5 hours total, managing. They ended up getting $16,000 in sales or a 550% ROI marketing spend. They used an influencer marketplace, right? So could they have been more effective if they had spent more time working with people that they already knew? I believe so. But obviously, when you work with people that have influence, there is going to be an ROI. The word is going to get out. It's probably going to outperform your brand channel. And when you work with multiple people, there is money to be made. This is a very, very successful example of what is possible if you're able to find the right influencer, even if you don't have that know, like, and trust. And if you do affiliate marketing, well, Amazon is huge. Why wouldn't you want to work with someone that is an Amazon influencer or an Amazon affiliate? There are various ways to find these people, but if I wanted to increase sales on Amazon, these are the types of influencers that I would want to work with. And obviously, we're not going to have physical events for a while, but if you do virtual events, then you'd want to invite them to your events. And this has been a very, very, I think the first or second after gifting product and for reviews, maybe the second most popular type of activity to engage influencers in that has very high ROI. So I want to go into, hopefully I've given you some ideas of how you can work with influencers. I want to give you some examples from the content side of things, because this is where more and more companies are seeing a greater ROI. And the reason is that whatever we do, if we go back to that slide I showed you about digital marketing today, everything we do requires content. On the other hand, we know that 98% of our employees, if, depending on the size of our company, are using social media, right? If not 100%. So is there a way to create content when we think about the influencer program? Is there a way that we can tap into that to create content for us or to leverage their content, which talks about us? This is an example of Maersk shipping lines. They're an example of a big brand on Instagram that just publishes 100% user-generated content, right? So I go into this and I see, this is pretty recent, a video from one of the containers. And they actually say the Blue Sailor is the username that was hashtag, right? So when I go into the Blue Sailor, I see that this person on Instagram has 3,000 followers, nano influencer, right? And he's posting a lot about his employer. In fact, he includes it, on his profile right here, Sailor Maersk. And look at the link. It goes to a YouTube channel where he only has 242 subscribers, but obviously this is a content creator who dabs in photo and video, a great person to tap into, to collaborate with further, to create great content that you can share on your social channels. We can also interview people for blog content. So this is an example of someone that reached out, actually it's HubSpot, pretty famous brand, reached out to 30 influencers, 23 agreed to contribute and share. They ended up getting 9,000 visits in the first month, where an average blog post related to sales was 3,000 visits. The influencers generated 45% of that traffic. And in fact, what's really interesting is that one influencer was responsible for 77% of the influencer traffic. And when you begin to work with influencers, it's going to be the Pareto rule, right? The 20-80. 20% of those influencers are probably going to have 80% of the impact. And those are the people that obviously you want to work more and more with. But this is just an example of how we can reach out to people in many different ways to help in the creation of content. And this blog content obviously is something we see a lot in the B2B space, but hey, it could be done in the B2C space as well. Creating content for your customers. Evernote, you see some examples here. If you have successful customers, why wouldn't you reach out to them, right? It's all part of reaching out to people in your brand affinity in order to create content. Creating content for your partners. This is an example of QuickBooks, accounting software, and they have a big partner network. And you see that this gentleman here had more than 300,000 views for a QuickBooks online tutorial that probably outperformed QuickBooks. So why wouldn't you want to collaborate with video creators that already have popularity on YouTube if they're already talking about things that are relevant to your brand? And then creating content for your fans. This is something, if you're able to incite enough word of mouth, you can have enough people that are, posting about your company, leveraging your hashtag. And Ritz-Carlton is an example of a brand that, once again, 100% sources their content. In fact, if you go to the bit.ly here, they basically say, hey, by including the hashtag, you're giving us permission to use your post. Now, you might, if you're interested in the leveraging of user-generated content, there was recently a lawsuit against Volvo for using user-generated content in an Instagram story of all places. Even though that person tagged Volvo, in the post. So we're still at the tip of the iceberg in terms of legal issues here. But I believe that's why Ritz-Carlton went out of their way by having this bit.ly. And I would, I'd go out of your way if you wanted to leverage user-generated content just to make sure it was okay with the content creator. And once again, if they're already a fan, a customer, they're in your sphere of influence, the greater the chance that they're going to say it's okay to do that. But I just did want to throw that out there because this is something that happened fairly recently. And then creating content through gifting product. This is a very, very common thing in influencer marketing today. This is Dickies, the clothing brand that were pitching me. Hey, if you create one Instagram post, we'll deliver your promo code to purchase 2 items. Easy way to incite word of mouth and to get great content that you can post on your social media channels as well. Gifting product is really undervalued. This is an example of a sugar-free juice that looks like water, brand called Koa. Koa, unfortunately, is no longer in existence, even though their influencer marketing did really well. They found 7 health-conscious micro-influencers. All they provided them was 1 month's supply of drink, right? They were able to reach over 483,000 very, very targeted people, and they immediately saw a 200% sales increase that jumped to 500% throughout the campaign. So even just gifting product, working with the right influencers, or I should say collaborating with the right influencers, can have major impact. And now there are marketplaces. This is an example of a company called trend.io. And what you can do is basically send them your product, they vet influencers, and what you'll receive back is photography like you see here. And then you're free to use that photography. The contract is written that content is now your IP. We're not even leveraging influencers for content amplification anymore, purely because they are excellent content creators. So I know I'm running out of time here. Just real quickly, how to engage with influencers. This is what it comes down to. WIFM, what's in it for me? And when you think about it, outside of money, there's a lot of different things that you could be providing an influencer, right? All these things you see here are very, very traditional. But when we think of an influencer being a content creator, and when we think they might be a customer or they might be an employee, we want to foster a community with this army of influencers. We want to help them become more influential. And this is where we can include our employees. Things like social media training, personal branding advice, giving them a photo shoot, right? Hiring a photographer to go around, the day taking photos with them, or providing them a video studio if we have access to one, or networking opportunities. There are now more and more companies that are investing money in training, not just employees, but also their army of nano influencers and how to become better at copywriting, photo taking, video taking. So this is something that I highly encourage you to consider in investing in the long-term ROI here, because what happens is these people will be talking about you long after your campaign ends, and you'll really see a lot of long-term benefits from doing this. So the ROI of all this, well, what do you want to do? I gave you lots of ideas, lots of different ways to collaborate. I love to ask the question that comes from Tim Ferriss through Pat Flynn, if you're listening to podcasts like I do, what would success look like? And for any different thing that you want to do, for every single marketing objective that you might have, there is a way of measuring it. And if you haven't been measuring it for your other digital marketing or social media marketing, you should be. And we should be comparing apples and apples. So you can get back to me at a later date and say, Neil, your advice worked compared to traditional ads. I saved this much money and made this much more. And that's the sort of data that I want to see. Your strategy should be completely data driven, but really you should be very, very clear as to your objectives and your KPIs. And you should be A/B testing like anything else. You should be comparing influencer marketing spend with other spend, but even within influencer marketing, it's the 20-80 rule. It's when we look at the different, this is an example coming from a dashboard, an anonymous campaign of the different types of money that some brands have spent with influencers. For $112,000 budget, some influencers got $500, some got $20,000, right? But also, depending on their influence, they got a different number of likes, a different number of comments, a different number of views, a different number of click-throughs, a different number of conversions. So only when you have the data will you see who is truly more influential, who has more impact than others, and then obviously you'll want to invest more with them. So within influencer marketing, there's a ton of A/B testing: campaign type, social network, content medium, and the influencer themselves. And then if you do everything I recommend, this is the in-house approach. If you use an agency, that's obviously an option. And then using a marketplace. All these are going to give you different results, right? It's sort of like you're never going to find the perfect mix. But if you do this right and you measure and you're always doing A/B testing, your influencer marketing ROI will be greater over time with each iteration. And just finally, the ROI of leveraging user-generated content, especially as you collaborate with these influencers, right? Hopefully you're going to get access to more and more content. And this is an example of a watch brand called Clues that has a dedicated page called Shop the Look. And it's been reported that user-generated content, which I'm assuming is all coming from the Shop the Look page, has generated 6% of their website sales. So this is just an easy way of leveraging user-generated content and seeing the ROI of it. We can leverage user-generated content in our product page. This is an example of Reveal Now. This is an actual Instagram photo. Instead of using a stock photo, they found tremendous results by leveraging user-generated content in their product page. And in fact, you can use user-generated content from influencers throughout your website, right? This is an example of a tool called Pixely that provides you the tools and the widgets to allow you to do this, to easily leverage user-generated content on your website if you wanted to take it to this sort of extreme. And then we do the math, right? For everything you see here, what's the in-house cost? What's the outsourced cost? What is the cost? And it may just be product when we work together with influencers. And I think you'll see that there's going to be a compelling ROI. And I think that any content you create is just going to perform better because it was created by a true content creator, right? So concluding thoughts, I know this is very fast-paced. You'll get the replay. You can watch it at slow motion. But just concluding thoughts here, and you're going to hear a lot about this today. That's why I'm so excited about this event. But, social media, yes, there's obviously, we're e-commerce companies, we want to market. But when you begin to think about social media more about collaboration than marketing, I think the opportunities unfold. And I believe that your collaboration with influencers can absolutely become the engine for all of your digital marketing. And hopefully at the end of this, 30-minute presentation condensed into 25, I think, hopefully you see the same as well. So my question for you, are you ready to invest in people, not in platforms, not in Facebook ads or Instagram ads, in people, and collaborate? I thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. Derek, I am going to hand the microphone back to you.